Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to be here with you today on the Resilient Minds podcast with Doctor Shefali. So, first and foremost, I just want to welcome you to the show. It's been amazing to see your work continue to flourish. But thank you for coming on. I'm really grateful.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
It really is. And I want to just share for those that don't know or haven't heard of Dr. Shefali yet. She's done tremendous work around the world, and she's received her doctorate in clinical psychology from Columbia University, specializing in the integration of Western psychology and Eastern philosophy, which most of you know how much this is important in the integration. So she brings together the best of these both worlds for a lot of her clients, people around the world, serving and supporting, and really been an expert in family dynamics, personal development, teaching courses around the globe. But what I really love is this component of conscious parenting and the awakened family, and bringing that to life as we step into a new responsible role in this lifetime. I'm excited to really open up that landscape and get curious, because I really find that more people, more than ever now, uh, need to find that essence of what's their true nature, so that they can show up in their fullness. And so, what really got you curious about all of this in the first place? Tell us a little bit about what experiences had helped you kind of start driving deeper within to find these deep questions and get more curious about yourself.
Yeah, so I think as a very, you know, young adult in my late teens and early 20s, I began to realize that I needed to figure myself out. And so I began meditating at a young age of 21 and was exposed to the entrapments of our belief systems. I was exposed to the social constructions we get enslaved within. I was exposed to the craziness of my own mind and realized how conditioned I was through meditation. And that just split me open to another level. I was already, embarking on my clinical psychology degrees. And I then integrated the teachings of meditation and Eastern spirituality with my learnings in Western psychology, got a PhD, and began working with people to help them break free of their own engagements of their belief systems that have torn them down, shut them out, thrown them over the edge, and taught them how to seize their minds, to tame their minds, to really harness a limitless potential. So that's what I do. And I then began really focusing on parents, not because, I have a special love for them or children. It's because I saw that that is the core. The first few as in dozen years of our life, to be generous, are really the pivotal foundation of our entire adulthood. So if I could teach parents to become more conscious about the garbage that they were spewing onto their children and teach them to curb the pollution of their children's minds, then I would be doing something. So that's why I zoned in on the parent and the child dynamic, because that's where we begin to indoctrinate ourselves and our minds, our precious minds, with such utter garbage. You're unworthy. You're not good enough. You need to fit in. You need to step up. You need to achieve more. You need to be prettier, skinnier, taller, shorter. That is where it all begins. And if we could immunize children by teaching parents to really become aware, then at least we would mitigate the damage. We cannot create zero damage. I have totally messed up my kid, but I've done it less than I would have had I not been conscious, right? So that's my goal in life, is to help parents to arrive at a place of greater consciousness.
Beautiful. And I think that taking that space of responsibility of choosing to say, hey, I'm doing the best I can with my own, children, and then saying, what can I do better for the community at a whole? What inspired to like say, okay, I'm gonna take this responsibility. What got you into that depth of getting curious enough to say, hey, I see there's something here that isn't working, and I'm going to really shine my light. I'm going to choose to shine my light versus kind of in this old societal belief system where there's like, hey, I'm going to like limit myself, which is what society oftentimes teaches most of us.
Yeah, I think that when we are very aligned with a mission and a vision and can get over our own ego of unworthiness and shame and fear and the ego that says hide because you're unworthy, ashamed and fearful, the ego that says shh, play small, if we can get over that, then you have no choice but to share your passion, your purpose. And that's what happened with me. I had such a clear vision and a mission, and I was able to silence my hiding, my playing small. I just had too much purpose for my own ego to get in my way. And not that the ego didn't try, but I just, the purpose won, and I didn't set out to change anybody. That's very important. I didn't set out to be a leader or start a movement. I really didn't. And that's not my purpose. My purpose is that I have to show up in my truth. And that's what I do. Now, if there are 5 people there or 500, of course it matters in my ego that how many people showed up, but in my soul I know that I need one person to show up at a time. That's it. And for me to show up for that one person, and that's how I began this journey. One mother, another mother. It really was the mothers, I'm sorry to say, not the fathers, because they were probably, I don't know, doing something else or disconnected. But the mothers really took to the message and began spreading this, so that conscious parenting has now become its own movement. But I never dreamed of anything. I just wanted one person to read my book or 10 people, and I'd be quite happy. So it has become an unexpected movement. But again, in my micro life, I'm not looking at myself as a big leader. I'm just asking myself, how can I show up? How can I do what I love? If it was cooking, I would cook. If it was baking, I would bake. It just happens to be that I love helping people suffer less. It gives me a lot of joy to get people to see how actually easy it can be to suffer less.
You mentioned something beautiful, and I think that this is something important that we need to discuss. The father, the importance of that responsible role and stepping into that. Because for me, I've been blessed with an amazing father and a man of true wisdom and foresight and silence. And so his ability to listen was so profound that gave me a curiosity about life. And I think that this is something that he always created space for my sisters, my mom, myself. And I find that in the old societal paradigm, it was so conditioned from my perspective that you need to go out there and prove yourself, right? And in fact, that's something that I really worked on myself is like, see me, look at me, I'm here, I'm here. And I think that most men, right, they believe that to be actually true in the masculinity in the old paradigm. And what I'm seeing now is how can we empower more of that truth of having these important conversations, of getting more curious, of empowering our children. What do you see as that being for men or fathers or the next generation?
Yeah, I mean, that is the key. In conscious parenting, I talk about how to witness your children, how to tune into them, how to be present to them, not to your own anxieties, not to your own fears, but to put your child's needs before you. This doesn't mean you give them shoes and alcohol and diamonds. The needs I'm talking about are the needs we all have as humans to be seen. So our children want to be seen. They don't want to be lectured, given opinions to, they want to be seen. And that ability is often expressed in parents who are of a higher spiritual caliber, who have done a lot of work, who don't need to impose their ego and the me, this is what I think, this is what happened to me when I was 15 onto their children. They don't see their children as an instrument of their own aggrandizement. They don't see their children as a version of themselves, as a reflection of themselves. They see their children as a burgeoning soul that requires tending and empowerment to bear strong root, which means we begin to honor that they have an inner knowing. We ask them, we sit and listen, we observe, we tune in, we go, you are a being worthy of reverence. You are a being worthy of figuring it out. You are a being worthy of empowerment. And I'm here to honor that. I see that even if you're 5 years old. And the old paradigm says, oh, please, if you don't control children and you don't lead their way and you don't break them early, you're going to have a handful. And that's why we have a very sick society today, because we've been taught to break our children. And that's why we're all broken. We did a great job doing that.
It's so profound what you're saying, because especially I imagine, with the societal construct and the people that you're dealing with, there's a lot of disorder, and creating these disorders, or dis-ease, because they've created these diseases. And I imagine that, my sister, for example, Joanna, who's amazing and a genius, was told for such a long period of time that she was sick, that she had a bipolar disorder, and she was told for such a long time that that was what she was, and she believed it, and it caused a lot of rebellion, and it created a lot of, like, I know my sister, I know her, I spent time with her, my parents know her, like, what is happening, and so it made me super curious about, hold on a second, I don't really agree with what is happening in society, so I'm going to go find within myself what's real and what's not. And this sickness that you're speaking of, what do you see? How can we break that pattern? Because that I believe, has been happening for thousands of years, right? And what do you think is our current state of responsibility, not just for fathers, but also mothers, and how, as a family, the awakened family, how is that a responsibility, and how can that extend into community, organizations, cultures, and co-creation?
Well, we cannot take on all that, right? But you're right, it needs to spread. But we have to first start with, I'm going to sneeze. Sorry. We have to first start with us. That's it. I cannot think about changing the world, because then I'll trip on my ego. I need to think about right here, right now, who's in front of me, what's one thing I can do for somebody else, and maybe teach a class, maybe do a workshop, but go very microscopically out of your own inner circle. We sometimes get beguiled by the big and the more and more followers, more numbers, more global recognition. And I don't think that that's good. I think we need to start with me and my children, and then my neighbors, and then my passion, and how can I do a little bit out there? Why do I say that? Because it must be organic. If your vision at the start is, oh, I'm going to change the world, oh my goodness, you are starting off on the wrong foot. You have to start with, let me clean my house, let me clean my relationships, because that is my teacher. So the focus has to be inward and near and proximal before it becomes distal. Because in order to sustain it on a wide scale, it has to be really something you embody day by day. So your laboratory is your own self and your own relationship first.
Profound. And it's like be the change you wish to see, right? So do
Yeah.
it within yourself. And I think that it's so nice to hear, because so many people are big thinkers and they want to go out there and make things happen now. And it's fascinating because we don't necessarily look at what's within us before we go out there to want to shine that light, because it's not embodied. So it's projected versus genuinely embodied, right? Like you're
Yeah,
saying.
and even the brokenness is projected. Like, who asked you to go to, India and change it? And who asked you to go to Africa and change it? And who asked you to go to Guatemala and South Africa and think that they needed change? No, this is coming from a very superior colonial attitude of, I need to change the world. No, you don't. You just change yourself. Because when you change yourself, you'll never talk like that. Because that's your brokenness being projected, and then your own self-appointed grandiose ego that you're the savior. Who made you the savior? And who said anybody's broken? Look at your own self. It's a very colonial way of thinking, and that's why our world looks the way it does. Oh, let me change the world. Did the world ask you anything? Did they call you? No. Be quiet and change yourself. Because when you truly change yourself, you will let people evolve, and you will stop exploiting people. You will stop creating greed. You will stop acting out of greed. You will not be thinking about money. That is the change that the world needs, is a new person within you, not you thinking you're amazing, I'm going to go change the world. No, right? And that's what these often megalomaniacal leaders of our world are like, trying to change the world. I'm like, have you seen yourself?
Yep.
I think you need to go on a lockdown and go heal your own inner splits, because you're projecting this onto the world and causing damage. The evangelical, crusaders who went out there, I'm going to change you, I'm going to give you a religion, you heathens, and barbaric people, let me educate you. Where was that coming from, except from their own shame? To go out there and change people? Like, how dare you even think that they are broken without you truly seeing your own brokenness, your own projection, your own delusions of grandeur? And have you gotten to know them? Do you understand them? Right? A real anthropological study requires that you go and subserviently learn at their feet before you go and change them. You know? Sorry,
I'm so
went off
grateful.
topic.
I love listening to you. It's so beautiful and profound, and it's important because, even during the Roman times, right? Like they would go out and sack other places to create more wealth within themselves. And this was the also like the dichotomy of money and how it's been manipulated for thousands of years to create a limitation on so many people of what true wealth is. And so when you're speaking, or when you're seeing this transition, uh, this pattern, repetition happening over and over and over again, because as you know, we've been cyclical and repeating this pattern. I think we're about to break the pattern, like as like together, everybody, But the point is that my fascination is that our wealth, right, our divine economy, right, give more than we can ever expect to receive, value for value. How are we showing up in the world? This is our nature from our divine, creator, our teacher, our great teacher, and our essence, our core. So why do you think that this manipulation had happened from such a long time ago? And why do you believe that nobody's been listening to the feminine core nature within us that is able to nurture in nature from that perspective for such a long period of time?
Why haven't we done it? Because we are, at our core, split off from our home, right? From Africa, say, or from the symbol of that oneness. And when that split happened, we just became more and more masculine to survive, to fight, to dominate, to separate. Now, I do believe we used to live more and more back then in the feminine, but then, harsh climate and the ice age and fear of being eaten by the bear or the lion, got us to be more and more disconnected from our feminine. But we lived more in touch with the feminine and masculine integrated. But as we became, we left that old world and began doing the agricultural revolution and dominating the earth and creating monoculture and all these institutions. It just was inevitable that we lost our way. Now, why did we lose our way and why didn't we stay connected? I don't know. It is what it is. We have lost our way. And the masculine is in dominance. And it's not bad that the masculine is in dominance, because it could be the feminine. That's not the issue. The issue is the toxic masculinity, the toxic femininity, meaning the extreme masculine. I will win at no cost. I will win no matter what. I will dominate. I want more. There is no stop button. I'm going to keep going. That is not masculine. That is insane masculine. That's insanity. So it's masculine driven to toxicity. So that's really the problem. And I don't know why we started going off and allowed ourselves to, but here we are. But we're seeing it right now in this moment in time. Everyone is talking about AI won't be good for us. AI will bring about a damage untold. AI will bring about a destruction that we will not be able to recover from. But is anybody giving a rat's ass? No, because they're making money right now. And it's all about money and greed. And hence the world will collapse because it cannot run on the illusion of money. It cannot. It has to run on the illusion, on the certainty and reality of our true nature. Our true nature is interdependent, one, tribal, together. We are one human species. There is no race, there is no color, except for what we are. And I'm not saying that there is no color. There is race, therefore there is color. But the idea of race is an illusion. So we have to go back to that nature. And instead of going back there, we're going deeper and deeper away from that into greed, into domination, separation, corruption, and consumerism. So we're so far gone now, and we're watching in front of us the next slippery slope, and there is no break. And we're watching it, right? Like when Steve Jobs said, "Oh, I never gave my children technology. I never gave my children the iPhone." And we all are like, "Oh, thank you for telling us 10 years later." We found out 10 years later. We didn't know you were making it to be addictive. And he didn't really make it addictive, but even he knew that the apps would be addictive. And now the same thing. We're watching AI come up as the next wave, and people are saying it's going to be detrimental, and we're not listening. And we're seeing the effects of the iPhone and the apps and the screens now in this age with our children, because children in America, at least, are the most loneliest, highest suicidality, so anxious, and rightly so. They're not crazy children. We have done this to them by isolating them onto screens that are like crack cocaine, and our kids are addicted and they don't know how to get off it, and we don't know what to do. So we're seeing the effects of the last wave of technology, and now we're at the beginning of the next wave. We're already in the middle, really, but nobody's stopping it. It's so sad. However, we have to take charge of our own individual lives at the end of the day and choose to live our lives to the greatest consciousness that we can. I cannot keep waiting for the president to make a law, because he's not going to. I cannot keep waiting for the next election or the next mayor. They're the same confused sheep as the ones before. So I owe it to myself, and every awakened being owes it to themselves, to create a life that is of service to the higher mission and embodies their own truth. I can complain all day long, like, are you kidding me? Do you see these politicians? Where are the laws for this? And how are children being allowed to be on screens all day? And why aren't the teachers taking away their phones in the beginning of the day? I can scream till I turn blue. I need to do what I need to do at the end of the day. Take charge of what I can, spread the message where I can, and just, die as I will. That's it. We're all going to die anyway. So, but it is absolutely a nightmare that I'm watching this wave of technology take over the relationships we have when even 10 years ago it was already disconnected. 10 years ago I was saying this, and I'm now horrified and mortified and terrified, and so glad I won't be here alive to see the devastation. I know that sounds so selfish. I'm like,
I
I'll be
think that
out. Bye.
I think that we can find the solutions, but I'm curious to before we go there is what your thoughts are on finding solutions for this AI shift. Because this morning I had a conversation with a woman out of Italy, and she was talking about the narcissistic behavior of what AI is really bringing, because it's illuminating a part of the past of this narcissism. Specifically, in my imagination, she didn't say it, but my hallucination was politicians, these so-called quote leaders, and not really stepping up to the standards of the highest level of integrity and principles. So I'm curious to know, based off of your wisdom and perspective, what do you feel we can do, and how we can set up as people that are willing to take more responsibility to really transition those shifts, so that even though AI is going to be part of the future, and I don't think it's not going to be, but I do think that there's a way of finding solutions and technology and integrate that with wisdom based off of the way that we get to show up in the reality. And I really believe that we're going to leave this world better than we found it. I believe that we have the sovereignty and the curiosity and the capacity to lead with love and do it with like alignment. And we're gonna leave it behind. I really believe this, and I know that we're gonna help each other make it happen. And it's not just gonna be you and me. There's gonna be tons of others. However, I'm curious to know from your perspective, right, and your wisdom, what do you see as being an opportunity for us to challenge more of these politicians, more of these leaders, more of these entrepreneurs, to really be more organizationally focused on the good and the benefit of our children and the benefit of our future generation?
Again, it's what can we do each day? Me showing up here, you having the platform, you sharing your word, I share it with the neighbor, I share over Thanksgiving. This is it. We have to shine our light. I write books, you do podcasts, whatever. Each person finds their way to start awakening themselves, healing themselves, and shining forth. And then the ripple effect of that will eventually touch where it needs to touch. Um, and that's it. We just have to keep showing up. I don't really, live my life trying to change the tide. I know that sounds, ironic, because that's exactly what I'm doing, but that's not my intention. Instead of focusing on what I don't like about the world, right? I just keep focusing on what I know works, and I just stay in that stream, right? So every day I teach, every day I show up and spread the word that I know to be true, that I know helps people. And I just don't focus on the negative vibe, right? I just keep clearing the path. And I'm not here to change the politicians. The politicians will come to me or this message when they are ready. So what I have to make sure, or you have to make sure, people like us, is that we're amplifying our voice in the greatest way. And the greatest way to amplify that is when we live it, body, mind, and soul, very integrated, very aligned, very clear. So every moment that we have an opportunity, we're shooting the arrow right in the bullseye. And that's what I try to do. And I don't believe whether I will leave it in a better place. I don't leave it. I have no way of knowing. What I do know is I better not waste my time today, and I better live it beautifully. But again, I don't carry the burden of changing the world. I also want to, live with love and joy and whatever can. The reason I'm saying that is I don't want people to think they have to now take on a big mission and, go and garden your roses and make a beautiful cheesecake and play with your little infant and giggle and laugh and, tumble with your toddler. What I'm trying to say is show up in your life with beauty, with engagement, with connection. That is healing the world.
It's beautiful, because I can tell you that we don't oftentimes see that within ourselves. I know that for myself included, as men, we want to always go out there and create. And it's not coming from a place of we can't do it. It's coming from a place of thinking, why do we exist? What's our reason for living? And this curiosity has always been something since I was a little boy. Like, what is why am I here? What is the reason for me? And I can't seem to be happy if I don't know that or if I can't feel it. And because of this limitation that has been passed on, it created this infinite level of curiosity and energy. And because it took me all over the planet, speaking with amazing teachers, learning from amazing people, and seeing how and why we exist, and recognizing that we're all each other's mirror. And this happiness I wanted to continuously express. It was from this curiosity, it was from this joy, it was from learning from wisdom like yourself and others around the world to help me discover that there is a nature within us that doesn't go, it never shuts off. And this is why I find that my life and your life and all of our lives is meant to leave at the highest state of principle the environment, the relationship, whether it's one person or family or people, or creates an awakened family on a global level or a community level or an organizational level if we choose to get curious about each other and really pay attention to the narrative of our heart's mission or our heart's desire or our passion. And so everybody starts to integrate that level of wisdom with each other. And then when we're listening strong enough, we can actually hear that from each other, from each other's essence, from each other's core, from each other's awareness, because we've done the work within ourselves to totally open up the doors of what's possible within each other, and then really help our future generations to cultivate a reality that they can live in their dreams. Because I believe, from my perspective, that's our core responsibility. So our next generation and the generations after, they can wake up in their dream rather than think of it something outside of them. And when the dream and the reality becomes the same thing, I think we've done our job. And I think that that's what the essence of a real family dynamic, a real powerful divine feminine and a divine masculine. And that's what my parents did for me. And that's what my mom and dad did for me. And they still do it to this day. They're like, Eric, you keep going, like, because they see how much life it gives me. They see how much value and passion it creates. And I believe that that's our core responsibility for the way that we choose to create. The playground just became so much bigger, like it's magic. And that is for me happiness. That is for me joy. That is for me seeing when I can go to India or to Australia or to Atlanta or wherever we are, and recognizing this is my sister, this is my brother. It doesn't matter, what color of the skin, what they believe in, what they have in their bank account. At the end of the day, this is my teacher in front of me. The person that's sitting in front of me is just as much the teacher that's sitting in front of me right now with an influence. Everybody is my teacher. And I think that having that level of curiosity with each person and that space of reverence, like you said earlier, it really benefits all of us. And it really changes the narrative and creates a space of safety for more of us.
Well said, well said.
So I'm curious, as you start to unpack and move forward with your mission of bringing this awakened family at the micro and the macro level, because I do believe that that's something that you've been doing for such a long period of time with a passion and a purpose, and it's just happening because you're following. How can more people tap into this, whether they're parents or children, to that layer of passion so that they can follow and not or stop the traumas that have been passed on to them, and instead continue to move forward with grace, with harmony? What is it that this layering needs to or can do as children of their own souls or parents of the next generation? What do they need to do? Because again, from my perspective, my parents have done everything to listen, to be witnesses, to be aware, to curb this pollution, a lot of these things of sharing self positivity and happy. But I do believe that sometimes people create from circumstance or trauma, and like you said, pass that on. So what can the parents do for themselves? I know that's a long-winded question, but I really feel like, yeah, please.
Well, they have to come to the awareness that they want to heal themselves. They see that they are causing dysfunctional wreckage all around them. They see that they're causing pain. And every adult has to wake up and say, you know what? I want to go explore this. I need to go look into this a little deeper, see why I'm causing this pain, and then embark on a journey of healing. It's not easy and it's not quick, and it has to come from within them.
Do you find that a lot of people are willing to do more of this work?
I don't know. They come to me a lot, but I don't know more or less. So I think now on social media, it seems like it's a lot more because people have more access, people have more awareness. So in a way, yes, people are talking the lingo more, but it doesn't mean that they're really doing the work. They all know what a narcissist is, and everyone's a narcissist now, right? Everyone talks like that. And self-care and boundaries, and these are the catchy terms that everyone knows about, but are they really doing the work? I don't know. You have to really embark on a deep journey to do the work. And people who come to me are doing the work, but they've always come to me, and I've had a thriving private practice for years, decades. So I see the people who are going on journeys. My audience is more, um, serious healers come to me because they know that I don't let people bypass. So yeah, I get worried that people fall under the illusion that just because they know more pop psychology, they think that they're doing the work, but they're not. They're just staying at the surface. So in a way, social media is beautiful because it allows for the awareness. In a way, it's a trap because it keeps people stuck at the level of just, I'm aware, but now what am I going to do with it? It doesn't go deep.
Mm. Surface. It's when you were growing up, was this something that you noticed a lot of? Because the surface level conversations, like, do you catch that right away? And when you're seeing the bypass, how do you approach those situations when people are trying to bypass?
Well, I'm a therapist, I'm a licensed psychologist, so I can gently, bring people back. But I don't think other people who've not worked with people as a therapist or coach should really try to do that because it's not their place. But yeah, people are bypassing all the time, eating too much, drinking too much, gambling too much, sexing too much, crying too much about their victimhood. We're all distracting ourselves too much. So as a therapist, I have a way of working with people where I help guide them back to their core fears that they're running away from, because it's hard to acknowledge, to admit, to own the pain. And that's what we're all running away from, the pain of our unworthiness. We have to confront that, but it's too hard. So we go looking for soothing in all the wrong places.
With your are you married right now?
No, I'm not married right now.
So, but you have a daughter, son? I'm
I
sorry.
have a 21-year-old.
Amazing. So with your daughter, is it a daughter?
Yes.
Okay. My curiosity is when you were raising her, did it feel like there was a level of you were passing on, or were you offering more of a perspective of a narrative of saying, hey, I'm curious. So like, what is it? Is there, can parents start to question their children, ask more? Like, I'm just trying to get some sort of specificity of anybody that's listening. is it possible for them to take those experiences of what you're sharing here to then pass it on so that their children can feel, or they can have a more clear communication with their children? Just a few tips or tricks.
Yeah, so I've written 6 books, so there's a lot of information they can learn and read from. But I think the main takeaway I would say to parents is, are you being present? Do you know who your kid is? What is their essence? Have you healed yourself? Are you acting out of anxiety that you need to work on? Or are you just vomiting it on your child? And are you truly connecting with who your child is? And are you allowing them the space to explore who it is they are? Or are you imposing on them your own rigid ideals of who they should be? It's hard to take away something from an abstract conversation like this. What I want people to really take away is go do the work. Pick up a book and start learning, and take a course and take your parenting seriously and commit to being a student, and start at the very beginning, because that's our fault as parents, is we think we know it all and we don't know anything. And I don't say this to mean it in a shameful way, but it was when I realized that I was clueless and helpless and really wounded, that's when I began learning. And that's when I began showing up for my child. So parents need to get off their mantle of superiority and perfectionism and ideals of grandeur, and really start humbly doing the deep healing work.
Amen. Beautiful. So you have to go soon. I am going to just ask if there is any way that people want to reach out or connect or find out more information. Where is the best way that they can reach out? I know you have amazing books. That any specific ones that you would suggest to take away from this conversation? First and foremost, I know they're all amazing. And if there's any suggestions that you would pass on.
They can find me on my Instagram. It's at Doctor spelled out Shefali. They can read my book called The Parenting Map. It's an amazing how-to book on parenting, conscious parenting, and start there, and then build from there.
Beautiful. Well, it was amazing to really connect with you. I really appreciate your time, your energy, your presence. And last question before we go. If you had 3 days left to live, what would you do?
I would sit in the sun with my best friends.
Mm.
And that could mean my daughter, a lover, my best girlfriends, my mother, all the souls that I love here on earth.
Thank you for your time and energy. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, and thank you so much for listening to The Resilient Minds. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please make sure to go comment and like and follow us on iTunes or Spotify, and please make sure that if you really love this, to share this episode, and make sure that you're inviting all your friends to like it as we continue to unfold what the beauty of our minds does. More importantly, how powerful our heart level of intelligence can be when we combine our heart and our brain together. And more importantly,
make sure you take the time to take a look at what we're doing at Balanced Media Ventures and how we can actually really support you in doubling your impact, your income, and your influence, and how you can bring your life's greatest vision into your purpose and create it from that level of reality. Talk to you soon.